Hello children, welcome to AIMS in the online classes. This is a chemistry session. Here we are discussing about water. In this session, let us see about hydrated and anhydrated salts. What are hydrated salts? What are anhydrated salts? Let us see these concepts in this session. First, let us see about hydrated salts. A hydrated salt is a crystalline salt molecule that is loosely attached to a certain number of water molecules. Okay, in these salts, the salts in which molecules are attached with certain number of water molecules are called hydrated salts. These hydrated salts they occur naturally all over the world, including even in the fresh water also. Even fresh water also contain small quantity of these hydrated salts. See here, different hydrated salts are mentioned. These all salts, they contain certain number of water molecules combined with their molecules. So because of the presence of these water molecules, these salts appear like crystals. See, they'll be having shining colors, isn't it? So this shining and a particular color is because of the presence of water molecules in them. So these salts are called hydrated salts. Hydrated salts may absorb the water molecules from the water vapor in the air, or become hydrated when they come in contact with the liquid water. Either of these ways, they get water molecules and hence they become hydrated salts. Okay, let us see some examples for the hydrated salts. One of them is hydrated copper sulfate. So actually copper sulfate molecules are attached with a certain number of water molecules here. By attaching like this copper sulfate salt becomes crystalline. See, it is shining and it is getting particular blue color. It is called hydrated copper sulfate. Let us one more. Hydrated ferrous sulfate. See, it is also in the crystalline form like our sugar and salt, isn't it? So, and it contains certain number of water molecules so that it is getting particular green color. It is called hydrated ferrous sulfate. One more salt. Hydrated magnesium sulfate. It is also one of the hydrated salts. It has white color. When hydrated, magnesium sulfate becomes magnesium sulfate heptahydrate. What does it mean by here? Hepta. Hepta represents 7. Means here each magnesium sulfate molecule is attached with 7 water molecules. So as it is attached with the water molecules, it is called hydrated magnesium salt or hydrated salt. And to mention how many water molecules are attached for one molecule, it is mentioned here hepta. Hepta means 7. Magnesium sulfate heptahydrate means each magnesium sulfate molecule is attached with 7 water molecules. Because of the presence of these water molecules in it, it is getting crystalline structure and particular color to it. Okay, the chemical compound is represented as this. This magnesium sulfate heptahydrate is represented like this: MgSO4 7H2O. The hydrated magnesium sulfate is also known as Epsom salt. It's a common name, Epsom salt. And 7H2O in this is meant to show that the magnesium sulfate molecule is bound to 7 water molecules. If you see this copper sulfate, hydrated copper sulfate, each molecule is attached with 5 water molecules. So now we can call this as copper sulfate pentahydrate. Here penta represents 5 water molecules. In the similar way, hydrated ferrous sulfate. How can we represent this now? ferrous sulfate, heptahydrate, because in this also there are 7 water molecules. Okay. Next, another form of salts, anhydrous salts. The salts which do not contain water of crystallization are called anhydrous salts. If the water of crystallization is removed, then the compound is said to be anhydrous. Generally, hydrated salts on strong heating, they lose this water of crystallization and they give rise to anhydrous salts. Simply to say, anhydrous salts means the salts which they do not contain water molecules in their molecules, in which the molecules they do not combine with water molecules are called anhydrous salts. Okay, even these hydrated salts, when they are heated strongly, they lose their water molecules and hence they become anhydrous salts. For example, Na2CO3 10H2O. It is a hydrated salt. It is named as hydrated sodium carbonate. We know sodium carbonate is Na2CO3. When it is hydrated, means when it is attached with the water molecules, it becomes a hydrated salt and can be called as hydrated sodium carbonate. See, it is getting crystalline nature by the presence of water molecules in it. If it is heated strongly, it changes into anhydrous sodium carbonate, means it loses this water of crystallization. It remains as just sodium carbonate. So as it loses water molecules, it becomes powdery. It won't be shiny enough as previously it is shiny, see, but after the removal of water molecules, it becomes dull. This salt obtained here by the removal of water molecules from its molecules is called anhydrous salt. It is anhydrous sodium carbonate. Okay. Now we have used a word here, water of crystallization. What is that? Generally in chemistry, water of crystallization or water of hydration or crystallization water is the water that occurs inside crystals. Water is often necessary for the formation of crystals. The number of water molecules present in one molecule of a hydrated salt is called its water of crystallization. So to simply to define it classically, we can define like this. Water of crystallization refers to the water that is found in the crystalline framework of a salt. Okay. For example, we told magnesium sulfate heptahydrate is one of the hydrated salt, isn't it? Because here magnesium sulfate molecule is attached with a certain number of water molecules. That number of water molecules attached to one molecule of magnesium sulfate is called its water of crystallization. See here, each magnesium sulfate molecule is attached with 7 water molecules. So by the attachment of these 7 water molecules to each molecule, it is getting that crystallization nature. So that is why this number of water molecules attaching to one molecule of that salt is considered as water of crystallization. Now what is the water of crystallization of this magnesium sulfate? It is 7, because 7 molecules attached to one molecule of magnesium sulfate. Okay. Did you get it? What is meant by water of crystallization? The number of water molecules attached to one molecule of that salt is called its water of crystallization, right? Generally, hydrated salts lose water of crystallization on strong heating and converts into hydrate anhydrous salts. Means they lose their water of crystallization and become powdery salts that we call as anhydrous salts. Hydrated salts have specific color, whereas anhydrous salts are colorless or just we can say white. See here example they have shown It is a hydrated copper sulfate, isn't it? It has water of crystallization and hence it is being colorful. It is blue color. When it is strongly heated, it loses its water of crystallization and becomes colorless or white. See, this is a anhydrous copper sulfate, whereas it is called hydrated copper sulfate. Okay, hydrated salts are having particular color to them, whereas anhydrous salts they do not have any color. Just they can be said white in color. How water is made safe for drinking. Let us see how water is made safe for drinking here. Even clear water also may not be safe for drinking as it might contain harmful bacteria and germs, isn't it? In the earlier sessions, we have seen how to purify the water by using different techniques. Even after purifying, it may contain some harmful bacteria and germs. So, these are to be eliminated before drinking. That we say how it is made safe for drinking. There are three ways to eliminate these harmful microorganisms. What are those? Let us see here. One of them is boiling. Small quantities of water can be made safe for drinking purpose by boiling it for 10 to 15 minutes. This generally we do at our homes also, isn't it? So before drinking, generally we boil the water in a container strong for few minutes. What happens during this time? All the germs and bacteria present in the water are being killed, and water becomes safe for drinking. This is one of the general methods for making water safe for drinking. That is boiling. But boiling is a time-taking and expensive method because there we have to heat it strongly for around 10 to 15 minutes. So it wastes a lot of gas or electricity, and even it is time consuming also. So that's why there is another technique for making water safe for drinking, that is chemical treatment. So in this, to avoid this difficulty by boiling, water is treated with chlorine, which kills the germs and bacteria immediately. So what is done here? Chlorine gas is passed into water to kill these microorganisms like germs and bacteria, so that water made safe for drinking. It is simple and immediately done. Explorers and soldiers are supplied with chlorine or halogen tablets, means they contain some chlorine in that. When these tablets are dissolved in water, they liberate chlorine gas, which kills the germs and bacteria present in the water. Thus, water becomes safe for drinking. Even these explorers and soldiers, they move in different places. They cannot carry with them always water. They have to consume the water available in those particular areas, isn't it? But that water may not be safe. It may contain harmful bacteria and germs in that. To make it safe, these soldiers and explorers they carry these tablets of chlorine, chlorine tablets. So they dissolve this chlorine tablet into water. Then it liberates chlorine gas, and that chlorine gas will kill these germs and bacteria present in that water. In that way, water becomes safe for drinking. This process of purifying water by passing chlorine gas into that so that it kills the germs and bacteria. This process is called chlorination. Okay, it is one of the techniques for making water safe for drinking. Another one is UV radiation, which we call as ultraviolet radiation. Water purifiers which we use at our homes, they not only remove dissolved impurities and even but also they kill germs present in the water by passing UV radiation through it. UV radiation means ultraviolet radiation. If this ultraviolet radiation is passed into the water, that kills the germs and bacteria present in the water. By this method also, water is made safe. Generally, this technique, ultraviolet radiation technique, is used in water purifiers which we use at our homes. Okay. Next, very important one is conservation of water. How to conserve the water? Let us see here. One of the most important steps in conservation of water is to prevent the wastage of precious water. Yes, water is said to be precious, isn't it? Why? Because we told in the earlier sessions around the overall water available on the earth, more than 97% of water is in the oceans and seas, which cannot be used for consumption. Out of the remaining percentage, large quantity is in the form of polars and ice caps, in the polar regions and ice caps in the form of solid ice. Only very small quantity of water is in the natural form, in the liquid form, which can be consumed. That is around 0.01 percentage. Very small quantity. So that is why we have to use it wisely. So we can say water is precious. So if you control this wastage of water, that comes under conservation of water. Small effort to prevent wastage like leaking of water, spilling of water will help in water conservation. Some of the other methods we can see here in conservation of water. One is rainwater harvesting, which is a very important one. By making pits near buildings where rainwater can be made flow to recharge the groundwater. So it is shown here. When it rains, large amount of water can be collected from the buildings. So if we make this water to sink into pits, it can recharge the groundwater, isn't it? By this way, we can conserve water. We can increase the groundwater levels. One more method, drip irrigation. It is a technique by which plants are watered directly at their base, reducing the wastage of water. If you want to water the plants, we have to flow water around them. So then large amounts of water will be wasted. Instead of that, if you make water to dripped directly at their roots, then with the small quantity only we can grow the plants and the wastage of water will be reduced. Another one, recycling of wastewater. Of course, this wastewater can be chemically treated for reuse. Of course, it is not fit for drinking, but it can be used for washing clothes and for watering plants and for different purposes. We can use this recycled water. Recycled water means we get wastewater from the industries and these all, and from even from homes and these all. So this water can be treated in the different methods and hence water can be purified. That purified water by these all treatments can be reused for different purposes, for washing clothes and for cleaning other things and watering plants. Okay, in these ways it can be used but not for drinking because it may contain still some harmful bacteria in those. Next, another method is cleaning existing water resource reservoirs. It is also important. Nowadays, all the garbages and waste are being thrown into the water bodies like rivers and lakes. So, if you clean those, desetting of lakes, ponds, and cleaning of rivers will help in recharging the groundwater. So, if they are cleaned properly, water will sink into the soil and hence groundwater will be increased. It increases the groundwater levels. Another one is afforestation, means planting of trees. Planting of trees help in increase of rainfall and prevents soil erosion. So if you grow more plants, what happens? More rains will occur and also it controls the soil erosion. Thereby it recharges the groundwater. Groundwater levels will be increased. So these are all the different methods which we can use for conservation of water. We should not waste the water because water is precious. Thank you for watching our video. Please subscribe our YouTube channel AIMS Today and visit our website aimstoday.in for latest updates on recorded videos.